This meeting is being recorded.
Yes, okay, it is being recorded. It is being recorded, everybody. I swear to God it is. Hello, everybody on YouTube and JLJ Media. I'm the voice, not the voice, but James Lott Jr. I'm the voice, James Lott Jr. And I hadn't get a chance to watch the episodes, you guys out there. So 3 people did, and they'll be talking about it with you. I'll be back next week, fully loaded and ready to go. But you know these 3 people: Frank Moran, John Dunphy, and Kim McAndrew. Frank, take it away.
Oh my! Well, first, I guess I better get out of this. There we are, everybody. Hey, everybody! Welcome to the Mandalorian Aftershow, brought to you here courtesy of the one, the only James Lott Jr. and JLJ Media. Folks, we're here to break down episodes 3 and 4. We were gone last week, but we're going to double the pleasure, double the fun. The new version of the Double Mint Twins right here for the Mandalorian Aftershow. So folks, we're going to dive into it. John Dunphy, first impressions of episodes 3 and 4.
I think for both of them, unexpected. I feel like I felt like episode 3 definitely didn't expect to spend that much time with Dr. Pershing. Episode 4, I felt like was interesting, but some stuff with Bo-Katan was very unexpected to me, and I know we'll get into it all. So I think for me, the theme is unexpected, but I actually still loved both episodes. I know saw a lot of stuff online and stuff that people were not thrilled with how episode 3 was. After episode 2, seeing the mythosaur and the living waters, I think people wanted to really get into that more in episode 3, but the direction they went, I actually thought was super interesting, and I loved both episode 3 and 4. So I'm excited to talk about it.
Oh, nice. All right. Kimberly?
I absolutely agree. Yeah, episode 3 was just completely, much the whole show. But I did like seeing the whole backstory for what happens to Imperial people after the fall of an empire. Where do these people go? What do they do? So I'm very curious about that. I'm also real curious to see what's going to happen to the good doctor next, because when we left him, he was not in a good way. And this week's episode was just the reason I watched the show. It was just a banger of an episode. There were monsters, and there were gunfights, and there were flying ships, and there were anything and everything, and lightsabers, and that's pretty much everything that I needed. And most importantly, Ahmed Best getting his flowers finally. I was like, yes, thank you. That poor guy has been through it with the fans, big time.
Well, I know, John Dunphy, a while ago, people were making fun of you because you went out and you got that Ahmed Best chest tattoo. And you're like, what are you doing? And
you want to see it?
You were all like, no. You guys trust me. I'm ahead of the curve on this. And you were right.
As usual.
Well, we'll start off there by going into episode 3, which is chapter 19, The Convert. As we talked about a little bit, it moves the Mandalorian Bo-Katan story a little bit. We see that she can no longer really stay on her planet that she was residing in, as somebody has sent just a squadron of fighters and bombers to obliterate her castle, which basically just resonates and brings up all the flashes of the fall of Mandalore. John, who do you think's behind this destruction?
So obviously I think it could be one of 2 people. I think, immediately people probably think of Gideon, but with the number of bombers that we saw, I really think I think this came from Thrawn, and I'm hoping it came from Thrawn. So
it's not a bad call. Kimberly, somebody who likes banger action sequences, as you mentioned in episode 4. How did this little taste of it work for you in episode 3?
I'm in the Thrawn camp on that. Yeah, I think it was him. I think we're there. At first, first I wasn't sure what direction this season was going to go in, and now we sort of see. I think they're going to bring us around to where it ties right in with the Ahsoka series and looking for, Ezra and all of that. So I think Thrawn is the one who sent all the bombers. But yeah, that sequence was insane. Just Mando jumping out of the ship and getting into and the whole, I was like, I just just complete nonsensical action sequences that would never work in real life, but I don't care. So it was because it was fun to watch.
Yeah.
What I do like about it though is how easily Jin and Bo-Katan work together as a team.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're great. I stand Manbo.
Already coming out with their couple name. I love it. There you go. Yes.
I'm here for it.
I could ship that.
Yeah.
Right?
So for Jin and Bo, there's not really too much development in this episode because basically they're just bookends. And we'll just wrap up their storyline real quick. They end up by going to the planet that Jin visited at the beginning of the season to reunite her with this Mandalorian camp for them to seek refuge. And she's kind of digging the vibe as she did not take her helmet off. She herself has been redeemed in the eyes of that clan. So, Kimberly, what do you think? Because it seems like Bo is struggling with everything she's seen in the waters of Mandalore, processing everything she's ever thought and believed about these customs, things that she thought was wacky, funny, ridiculous, and really kind of questioning herself. Where do you think her journey is going to lead for the rest of the season?
Yeah, I'm not sure because she's really wrestling with, she just kind of grew up with this whole Gen X cynicism thing where it was just like, ugh, this is just so, tradition, whatever, yeah. And now it's like, oh, wait a minute, there's community and there is togetherness and there really is a mythosaur, and maybe I have been wrong this whole time about all of this. I think she's just realizing that she got so involved in getting that dark saber that everything else, she just kind of let everything else fall away, and she ended up with, just nothing, sitting around her castle by herself pretty much. And now she has an opportunity to rediscover, what it is to be a Mandalorian. And she's just really cautious, but at the same time, I feel like she's kind of optimistic about it. I think she's kind of enjoying herself.
John, what I think was interesting is that with Mando's journey that we've watched so far, we go with him first and we kind of sympathize with his struggles about not being able to take off your helmet and it's all about keeping your identity secret. And then we run into Bo-Katan and she shows him a different way of living the life of a Mandalorian. For you, whose side do you kind of go with?
I mean, I definitely see both sides of it. I think a little bit anyway. I think like I like that Mando follows his creed and feels, very strongly about it and values, the things that this group, that they follow. But I also see Bo-Katan's side of it, that she feels it's a cult and she feels like, I feel like both of them are a little too extreme in their views, and they're both kind of help each other kind of come to the middle a little bit. You know what I mean? But yeah, I don't know. It's definitely interesting. I don't know if I could say that I side with either one of them totally. I think it's somewhere in the middle, and they're both kind of helping each other work to that middle.
As we're going to dive more into Mandalorian in episode 4, we'll wrap up our journey in episode 3. Kimberly, John and I, along with James, we did the Andor after show, and both of us, all three of us, thoroughly enjoyed it. For you, did you enjoy Andor?
I did, yeah. I mean, it's a completely different vibe altogether, obviously, but I really like just seeing them flesh out the Star Wars universe to where you, instead of just, oh yeah, the Empire, they're bad, period, end of story. And it's like, no. Why are they bad? Why is this bad? Why are the rebels working so hard to bring them down, and showing us just how cruel and just inhumane the situation was throughout the galaxy, and something just had to change. It really, it was a serious ride. It wasn't, fun, like, yay, shoot monsters kind of thing, but it was definitely one of those just journeys where you just kind of, okay, I understand what moves, Princess Leia to be the way that she is now. And I understand why they worked so hard, and the rebellion was so very, very important. It wasn't just exchanging one form of government for another. It was truly freeing people and taking away the tyranny. And so, yeah. So long story short, yes, I really liked it. It was very different from what I was expecting, but I thoroughly enjoyed it. And just, yeah, I'm glad we're going to get one more season of it, because I want to see how we get tied right into Rogue One.
Yeah, I think we got a lot of the buildup out of the way in season 1 was great, but it was, I think, building towards what we're going to get in season 2, which I feel like is going to be like a whole lot more action. And I think it's going to be as great as season 1 was. I think season 2 is going to be even better.
John, for you, did you enjoy the kind of Andor take on this time period of the Star Wars universe?
Yeah, I do. Was that Kim?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, you guys cut out. I didn't hear the last half of that question.
Oh, sure. No, I was just asking John if he, as a fan of Andor, did he enjoy that kind of take on this period of Star Wars history?
Oh, yeah.
No, definitely. I thought it was great.
Yeah, it's well, I think there's something cool about like the interest in like the minutia of how it runs in Star Wars, but I also don't know if it's only just one episode, and we don't know what the rest of the season's like, so it's hard to really kind of know if this was just a standalone or we're going to get more of this, which makes it tough to kind of really give a full thought on it. But I felt like the storyline was a little it was pretty obvious where it was going. Like, at any point did either of you think that that depression was not being set up to fail?
I knew that. Yeah, the whole time I knew he was being set up to fail. The only thing that I was like thrown off by, I kept expecting, like, I thought he was going to be like kidnapped by Moff Gideon. You know what I mean? Like, I thought that they were setting him up. They were going to get him into a certain spot on Coruscant, and then he was going to be picked up and just like taken prisoner. And now you have to work for us. Like, you have to continue this. It doesn't matter. You're trying to, assimilate back into the New Republic or whatever. But sorry, we're taking you. Didn't expect him to. His mind to be flayed.
Like, what the hell? Yeah, I didn't expect that, but I knew the whole time. Every movie he would make, I would go, dude, don't do it, man. Don't just file your stuff and at your cubicle and go have your space ice cream after work, and just, man, don't trust her. I'm just saying, don't do it. The whole time I'm like, oh God, please don't do this. And when he got caught, it was like, okay, we got caught. So that's not a surprise.
I also feel like a lot of people were complaining about how they found this whole thing boring, and that it didn't need to be as long as it was, or maybe they could have done small snippets of this throughout episodes of the season of Mando. But for me, I felt like the bookends with Mando and Bo and going back to the covert, I thought were very good. And then you had this big chunk, it was like 40 minutes or something of this whole thing with Pershing on Coruscant. And I felt like I'd rather get this all in one episode, because we got it all in episode 3, and now we still have 5 episodes of Mando. And with that whole storyline's out of the way. Why do we have to keep revisiting this episode after episode? Let's get the full story now, or a lot of the full story, because the next time we see Pershing, I am expecting him to be somewhere else, not on Coruscant. You know what I mean? Like, whenever we see him again. But like, I would have been kind of bummed if it got dragged out episode after episode after episode. Like, let's just get it all done now. And then look what happens in episode 4. We're right back with Manbo and the Covert.
Yeah.
And I don't know what the end game was, at least right now. I mean, I'm sure we're going to find out in future episodes, but why they left her alone with the dial in there, even as much as they say they trust her. I'm like, why are you leaving anybody in there while this is going on? But that she turns the dial up. What was the point of like obliterating his memory? Like, do they not want him for his son's prowess?
I've heard 2 theories. One is that he just knows too much, and that they don't want him talking to anybody, on Coruscant, to let them know what he was doing for Gideon, or anything like that. But then I've also heard that, is she actually erasing his whole memory, wiping his whole memory, or is she trying to just wipe the New Republic programming he's been receiving, and he'll still have that other knowledge that he has, And I'm wondering too, is this similar to, like, because in Rogue One we saw the Bogalot, right, with the pilot, and I feel like he was able to kind of snap out of it kind of quick. So is this like, let's just make this so that he can't remember anything for now, and then once we get him back onto one of our ships or something, we'll snap him back into it and put him to work or something? Like, I don't know, like, is this like the mechanical version of the Bogalot that can kind of wipe your mind or whatever? I don't know.
Yeah, it's a big question mark right now. I have no idea. It was almost like he was taking revenge on him for something that he had done to her. The way she seemed to enjoy, turning that dial. She was like, yeah, finally. And I was like, what did he do to you? I don't know. What did hurt you? I don't.
Yeah.
They didn't explain that part, but I could just be reading too much into it too, which is very likely.
I enjoyed little details too, like when they use colors. So like, he talked about like the yellow travel biscuits that he loved, and immediately Elia Kane was like, oh, I love the red ones or whatever. I'm pretty sure it was her character that said that. And then when they're eating those little ice cream things, she has a red one. And he doesn't have a blue one. Like, it's not full light side, but it's purple, like as if he's conflicted. You know what I mean? And we kind of saw that throughout the episode. And like little hints and details like that are very, very fun to me.
Jen, did those crackers those biscuits look appetizing to you?
They looked very dry, very dry.
Yeah. If they sell those at Galaxy's Edge, I'll skip. I think I'm good. I'm good.
Yeah, there is. I always love the world building, the set design for Star Wars, but there were a few things in here that I was like, oh man, I don't know. Specifically, the robots that they use on the monorail train, the silver robots that we see, the designs for those they looked off to me as being within the Star Wars universe. There was just something about them that just seemed too bulbous, too weirdly shaped. It just seemed weird to me that they would fit into the previous versions of what we know of droids in the Star Wars universe.
Also, not effective at all at catching people that don't have tickets. Like, they move very slowly, very slow.
It's like, these birds are really bad at their jobs. They should get something else to do. I don't know, sanitation something, but yeah, you guys really aren't very good at your jobs, because it was just kind of a slow walk, hop to the next car, hop to the next car.
Yeah, it's very weird.
Low speed Bronco chase. through the
Also,
subway.
Pershing really should have known something was up when Elia Kane literally knew exactly when to jump to land on this like padded, nice, safe thing. Like,
Yeah.
like
Trust me, it's
It's like,
fine.
dude, are you not catching on yet? I mean, how bad do you really want to clone stuff? I mean, you're just so blind. It's like I must clone, and you don't see that this chick is just taking you for a ride, like literally taking you for a ride.
yeah.
It's definitely setting up for well, we know Giancarlo Esposito is coming back in season 2, so I'll be curious to see when Moff Gideon kind of rears his head and what his status is going to be.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean that takes us over to episode 4, the Foundling, and this time we're back here on the planet that Mando and Bo-Katan went to at the end of season episode 3. And this is just like hey, we're hanging out. This like a little fun adventure. As Kimberly says, it's just like a little fun bang, shoot 'em up. Really cool 25 minutes of television. For this one, we get I will start it off though, just with a thing that kind of it's like that Forger. Like, how much work does she have to do? Like, she's always got something going on. She's always got something to smash, something to break down, something to melt.
Yeah, that phone is always burning. It's always on.
Yeah, it's so funny too because like I've like gone back and forth with the Armorer, like from really loving her at the start to then feeling like she's kind of like an antagonist for Mando, and then like now kind of being like again like, you know what, I like her again. Like,
yeah. Well, I mean, I guess there's that following that creed just makes everything pretty cut and dried, where you take your helmet off, you're out, and you bathe in the waters, you're back in, and everything's cool.
Yeah. Like,
So
set of rules, don't have to do much thinking. It's, it works for her. It just works for her.
This is the way.
That's right.
As
the episode starts off, it is Bo-Katan kind of just seeing how this clan trains. And we're still in that little inlet in that cave with that body water next to them. It's just, I mean, I guess it doesn't look as polished as like a military boot camp. I guess what are you going to do when you've got this to work with?
Yeah. It was cool to see Bo walking around looking at all the training going on, because I feel like it's funny. Like, I get why Bo has had reservations with this cult, as she's referred to them all along. But I think, and part of me felt like after, episode 3, it was kind of like she's kind of going along with it. I'm homeless now. I can kind of hang out here for a bit if I don't take my helmet off. So I'll just kind of go along with it. But in this episode, to me especially, it really started to feel like she was really starting to buy into some of this stuff. It was like looking around, it's like, look at all these Mandalorians. Because as much as she has like vocalized to Mando how she doesn't really like the way the Children of the Watch do this, all this stuff, it's kind of like she also has been saying, like, I don't like that the Mandalorians fight each other. And now it's like, all right, well, look at these Mandalorians training. There's a community here, like Kim mentioned earlier. Like, that's in a way what she's looking for, even if not all of the ideals align with what she feels. Like, this is still something that like maybe she's been searching for. And I know she has the night owls and all that, but like we've been seeing her sulk in her castle before it got blown up, and now all of a sudden she's in a community of Mandalorians, and it's so it was cool to watch her kind of just walk around and watch everybody training. And it was funny to me too, because I love the titles of these episodes. It was like, you see the Foundling, and it like, based on this episode, is the Foundling, is it Grogu or is it Bo herself? In a way, she's kind of like a Foundling here, so.
Well, for either of you, when Bo does her take a walk through the campus of training at the beginning of the episode, do you think that she's looking at everyone with like a sense of admiration or a sense of like, wow, I could belong to something like this? Or Is it more sinister? I'm saying necessarily sinister, but she has her own agenda and looking like these are people I could use to achieve whatever I want to achieve, which could possibly lead getting back the Darksaber.
I think it's a little bit of a few things. I think it's she sees these are people she can work with. Maybe these are people she can lead, and then also kind of like, you know, maybe I was being too harsh, you know what I mean, in my judgments of this group, because I haven't seen this many Mandalorians together as a community training in a very long time, you know.
No, that's true. What do you think, Kimberly?
And they don't have to have a leader with the Darksaber to stick together. They just stick together because they follow the creed. And she just said the loyalty, I'm sure, is just not lost on her, because as soon as she lost the Darksaber, everybody just went, yeah, okay, look at the time, I gotta go, I'm out, and left her alone. And they don't require that type of thing. They all have that in common, and they're loyal to each other. They help each other. You know, when a kid goes missing, they all go look for the kid, and I'm sure this is very new to her in more ways than one.
Well, speaking of this kid, we meet him as well. I mean, we saw him at the beginning of the season. He's the one that has his kind of induction into to become a Mandalorian interrupted. But we see him in this episode training, and they have him square up against Grogu. McAndrew decides, hey, Grogu, it's time to start earning your keep as a Mandalorian and learning our ways. I gotta admit, like, as much as I like, there's just something about this Grogu which is starting to kind of wear thin on me.
Yes, I've been waiting for this.
Yes.
Been waiting for this, honestly.
I don't know. Yeah, it just doesn't. I don't buy into the reality of it anymore, and just the way that it comes across, it just looks so goofy to me. And I just wish he was older. I wish he was just a bit older.
I thought about you so many times while I was watching this episode, because we talked a couple weeks ago about how you have some issues with how it looks when Grogu walks and things like that. And I asked you if you thought it would be better if he had a little Yoda cane. But Grogu was doing a lot of walking and jumping in this episode. So I thought of you so much.
Like that leap back and forth over the kid to shoot him with the 3 paintballs. Kimberly, where do you fall on Grogu? Just as an entity within the show.
I'm the opposite. Every time he walks, I go, oh, he's so cute. And every time he jumps, I'm like, look at him go. And I am the exact opposite. I'm just, everything that little kid does, I'm like, oh God, show him walking again, because that's the cutest thing I've ever seen in my life. And it's just super overload. I love him.
We see a scene where after everybody's left, and we'll get to that in a second, but the armor says, like, hey, it's time for you to start learning about being a Mandalorian. Follow me. And I could see why they cut in that scene, because that walk must have taken that kid forever, because he was so far out of the cave to be shimmying up. Oh my God. Even an hour before he got in to talk to her.
Yeah. She could pick him up, maybe that might be helpful, but or he needs his little pram so he can just float around. But I love it when he walks. I think it's adorable.
See, I don't mind the walking as much. I do find the walking sort of cute, but I do sometimes with the leaping, the jumping, I can see Frank's point. Yeah.
It just looks like anytime you're watching like a TV show and they cut from a real person fighting, and then they just like a dummy and they just throw the dummy around. It just looks like that. When he leaps in the air, it's like somebody just threw a dummy. I'm like, all right, that's him. He just left. Great.
You know what else I was thinking about, because it feels like they're hinting at like Grogu is gonna speak soon, and I feel like it's gonna be this season at some point. And I feel like, what was it? It might have been episode 2 where Mando and Bo said to each other, "This is the way," and then Grogu gave kind of like a like you could tell he was trying to say something. And part of me wants his first words to be like, "Everybody, please stop calling me kid. I'm older than all of you. I'm 53." like I hope that those are his first words. It's like, stop calling me kid. I could be your father.
Yeah.
I mean, since we're really diving into the Grogu of it all, we'll just stick with this storyline and wrap that up. While everyone else is away, and it's just the armor and Grogu just hanging out, being cool. She brings him in and starts talking about Mandalore and what, smelting his armor, what it means. And we see a flashback of Grogu back to the fall, Order 66 happening, and we see how he escapes. Kimberly, what did you think of that little bit?
It was, even though we know he's obviously going to get away, because duh. It's still the way they shot it, the way it was still a real, a nail biter. It was like, because he's just this little guy, this little blanket and everything, and it's like, oh my God, how's he gonna get away? And I don't know how they managed to do that, because it's a foregone conclusion. It's like he's remembering his escape, so he did escape. But it was just the how, and like I said, when I saw Ahmed Best, I was like, oh my God, this is so great. I am so glad that they're giving him a chance, letting him be a Jedi and a good Jedi at the same time, getting Grogu out of there. So I loved the whole sequence. I thought it was really, really cool and interesting.
John, please rave about your boy Ahmed Best.
Oh man, he was great. I will say, so one thing I will say, it was cool to me, and I did watch the episode twice today. So like I noticed, especially on the second watch, that you could really see. I liked seeing the aging of Grogu from the Order 66 flashback to when he was then remembering it. You could really see some aging there, which I like to see. But I love this. I wasn't sure if it was going to be like a Jedi that we were familiar with. Like there were some people theorizing that it could be Barriss that saves Grogu. So like to see that it was this other Jedi, Kelleran, was very cool. And as Order 66 is like the saddest, most tragic moment in Star Wars, but it's like I'll never get tired of seeing flashbacks of it, especially when we see all these different shows, whether it's Obi-Wan Kenobi, or whether it's Andor, or whatever it is, like or now Mandalorian. Like I love seeing, it's like each series gives a new Order 66 flashback that like pieces together things that were going on in the same building that are all important moments. And it's very cool. I love seeing the different flashbacks. But this was really cool to watch. I really, really enjoyed this. I like how they did this. Now I'm most interested in how did Grogu go from being saved from the temple by Kelleran to then ending up in this weird warehouse or wherever he was with a bounty on his head. I want to see how he went from the hands of a Jedi to just hanging out in this pram in a dark, dusty old room somewhere with a bunch of pirates, fighting off Mando and IG.
Yeah, I mean, that is the way they've set this up. I mean, it's interesting to see. Is it a flashback that's going to continue throughout the season, or maybe we see it season 4 during another moment when Grogu's having a little bit of reflection, but continue the story on a little bit. I'll be interested to see how Jon Favreau decides to tell more of that part of the story.
I'd like to see at least one more piece of it this season, even if we have to wait for the full story until next season. Like, I'd like to see at least one more piece now. This was definitely the longest and most exciting flashback for Grogu that we've seen so far. But there's still so much more I want to see about what happened to little baby Yoda.
There to go back into more, I guess, sort of adult baby Grogu. At the beginning of the episode, where during the training montage, I was super jazzed because we cut over to Grogu and he's got all these rocks. What we think are rocks around him. Like, oh, this is great. He's going to be practicing his Jedi, or he's going to be levitating stuff. And then it's just a bunch of all these crabs that were just scared to move. And as soon as Grogu leaves, they all start, running to the water. I'm like, oh, we can't ever.
He picked one up, and I kind of just expected him to just like suck the crab out of the shell, but
yes.
He didn't.
Oh.
Because he's always hungry.
Well, as he has these flashbacks, he snaps back to present day, and the armor has made him his next bit of armor, and gives him this huge hubcap attached to his chainmail, and it looks ridiculous. Oh, but as she says, he'll grow into it. I'm like, not anytime soon. He's not.
Yeah, I like seeing the Mudhorn signet again, though.
Yeah, but come on, I don't know. I completely admit I may be way too harsh on this, but it looked silly. It looks silly to me. I wanted it to look cool. Like, let's just adjust it based on his relative size. Come on, armor. He's not going to grow up to be like some 6 foot tall creature. At best, maybe 3 or 4 feet.
Put it down now. Season finale, season 3. Grogu is going to be riding that mythosaur. He's gonna rip open his shirt with that signet on it, and he's just gonna go. His first words, "This is the way," in a deep voice like that. This is the way.
Kimberly, I will ask you, because I kind of got this vibe, and I don't know if I'm reading it wrong or what you think, that Grogu may not want to be a Mandalorian. I don't know if he's really digging all this stuff. What do you think?
I think he does, as long as he can stay with his dad. That's all he cares about, honestly. It's like, okay, well, you need to learn all this, how to fight, son. And he's like, okay, whatever. As long as I get to stay here, I don't, just don't send me back into, to have to go through the whole Jedi thing again, because, I mean, let's face it, it's not been a smooth ride when he's with the Jedi ever. Not with Luke and not before. So he really just wants to, I think he just wants to be safe, and he feels safe with Mando, and so he'll train however he's supposed to, as long as he gets to stick around.
John, I'm gonna ask you, because I feel like maybe that's the source of my frustration going back to this character, just the way that he is designed. He is such a long-lived race. It takes forever for him to any significant signs of growth that, we're never really like, it could be 50 years more before he could say his first words, or be, not looking like grown a little bit, or be able to actually have a conversation that we could see how he feels about things. It's tough to see, like the richness of that relationship between, for me at least, Mando and Grogu would be to see like where they come together, and maybe what they butt heads on. And for Grogu, maybe it's like, I love you, but I don't love being a Mandalorian. I want to explore something else. I feel like we're never going to get to that in this show, because Grogu is of just the way that Grogu is made.
Yeah, I mean, I'm curious how they're going to incorporate, because, I mean, we know that some of these Rebels characters are going to be coming into the Ahsoka series. They've already hinted at it with the Purrgil in the season premiere. And I would love if we had some of these characters overlap into the Mandalorian, because we saw how Grogu was able to communicate with Ahsoka. I'm sure that he was able to also communicate with Luke the same way. And, these Ahsoka and Mando are already pretty connected, even though we haven't even gotten the first season of Ahsoka. But between Ahsoka and then introducing a character like Ezra Bridger, if you can have, even if Grogu's not able to communicate verbally himself yet, if you can have a Jedi around that can communicate with him through the Force, that's interesting to me. Like that's how we learned his name. It's because Ahsoka was able to talk to him. So whether it's Ahsoka or Ezra, if they can bring some of these Rebel characters in, and then Mando and Grogu appear on Ahsoka, you could still have some communication from Grogu and get his feelings and his thoughts on things, but he doesn't necessarily have to be able to speak for that to happen in that situation,
Yeah, because I'm torn, because one of the fun things about Star Wars is seeing all these different characters from all these different races showing up with things that you don't normally expect. Like for example, seeing the Wookiee bounty hunter. You're like, ooh, that's cool. A Wookiee bounty hunter. Hey, interesting. What's that story? So seeing a Mandalorian that is of Yoda's race, like, whoa, that's interesting. But I feel like we're never going to be able to be around to this point to ever really see that unless we jump further ahead into the Star Wars timeline and do stories set hundreds of years from now to be able to see something like that.
Yeah. This is totally off topic, but it was something that I was thinking about. Sorry, because of the because of the flashback we got in episode 4. So obviously Grogu was at the temple on the night of Order 66 being executed. And I was just wondering, because you would think that Yoda would have a particular interest in Grogu as it's one of his own species, whether if it's, whether Yoda had a secret love child or something or not. But like, I'm like, I would love to see, because, at the end of Revenge of the Sith, we see Yoda and Bail Organa and Obi-Wan Kenobi kind of regrouping, right? And kind of figuring things out. We're going to split up Luke and Leia. I would love to see some kind of flashback where Kelleran brings Grogu to Yoda and gets instructions on like, what should we do with this child? I would love to see a flashback of like Yoda and Grogu together. Am I crazy in that?
Where do you imagine this happening? On Coruscant, or do you think that he actually goes to Dagobah and touches base with Yoda there and then takes off from there?
I would think like I'm just picturing that room in Revenge of the Sith where Bail Organa and Yoda were together, and Yoda's being like, I must go into exile. Like maybe it's in that room. Kelleran brings Grogu in and says like, I rescued the child. What should I do now? And just like Yoda telling Kelleran like, oh, you have to do this, you have to do that, whatever. Like I want to see a scene where Yoda and Grogu are in the same room together. I don't care where it happens or what is said. I just kind of want to see them in the same room.
All right.
I do too.
From your lips to Jon Favreau's keyboard.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I never really thought about it. Like, obviously, that they had to have met each other. So, like, you know what I mean? At some point at the Jedi Temple. So, like, I just would love to see that.
Just even just like some flashback of him just walking into just a youngling's training room and just seeing Grogu just chilling out in his little hover chair.
And Yoda's just like, yo, what up, Grogs?
Right. Now, all right. The majority of the episode, though, also focuses on the foundling that is fighting with Grogu and loses. He goes off to sulk, and then, as always, John, that's why you don't hang out by large bodies of water, because you never know when a large flying dragon is going to snap you up and take you back to its nest. For me, this scene made me laugh because a bunch of Mandalorians, right thing, they chase after this dragon and try to rescue the foundling, but they all run out of rocket fuel, and they say that like you're never able to catch them. Like, well, why didn't think of something different instead of always just going with them after the rockets?
Yeah. No, it was like, what are you doing? It's like, if you know that you're gonna run out of fuel, then why are you doing this? And of course, the new person there, Bo-Katan, is the only one to be like, I'm gonna get in my ship now, and I'm gonna follow it. Like,
it's like, yeah, I thought you guys were cool, and then now I see how you operate in a crisis situation, and this isn't great start yet. But she is given head of the rescue party, and so she takes the crew and she brings them there. She's got the whole plan. She's got it laid out. Kimberly, how did you like seeing Bo-Katan back in a leadership role amongst a group of Mandalorians?
Yeah. No, I love that character. So they can spend as much time as they want to with Bo. I'll be very, very happy. I really like her. I like her interactions with Grogu. Just and just seeing her, in action again was just like, this is awesome. I love it so much. I love the translation, just bringing him over from animation to live action. It really is something I never thought that I would get to see as a Star Wars fan. And now we're getting to see all of these characters in live action. And it's just never in a million years did I think we would get to see this stuff. And it's just the best.
Side tangent here for a second, Kimberly. How did you enjoy seeing Cad Bane come to life in Obi-Wan? Boba Fett.
Oh, see, I completely just, my son and I both just flipped out when we saw him. We were just like, oh, no way. I couldn't believe it. And it was just the hat and the voice and the whole thing. It was just jaw dropping. It was so cool. And of course, I don't want to know what happened to the poor was it Marshall?
Cobb Vanth, right? I'm waiting to see Hondo Onaka now in live action. That's what I'm waiting for. Give me Hondo.
Well, we do get a little bit more into kind of the Mandalorian culture, at least for how this planet operates. Because Bo-Katan's kind of our new person as well, as you're mentioning, John. She's like the foundling for this. So she asks the questions that I'm sure we all ask, where it's like, how do you eat with these helmets on and not letting anybody else see your face? And basically, it's like whoever's the leader of the party, they get the honor of sticking by the fire. Everybody else scatter to the wind, find your own little dark corner somewhere, and take your mask off.
Yeah.
I just love, it's so funny. Like Bo-Katan was calling this group a cult, did not want to be a part of this, thought they were all crazy. And it just shows how much of a leader she is, that she is now, you're the leader of the war party, Paz Vizsla tells her. And you have the honor of staying by the fire. It's just, I feel like she's starting to rethink this. It's like, I'm already at the top of the pecking order here.
Yeah.
So I had a ship. Man, I'm doing great compared to these guys.
Right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we find out that Paz, the reason that he's so gung-ho about this is that the following that was taken was his son. So that's why he is so eager to find him in the nest. And instead of finding him immediately, he finds 3 chicks from this dragon. What I thought was interesting is the dragon shows up and then regurgitates the kid, and I'm thinking, how long was that kid in that dragon's belly? Because that was like an overnight trip that the rest of the Mandalorians took.
Listen, if Boba Fett can survive in that Sarlacc pit for as long as he did, that kid can spend a night in a weird pterodactyl dragon thing, belly. I love that this kid is a Vizsla, though.
Kimberly, for you, did you enjoy the rescue sequence?
Oh, I loved it. That was great. I mean, I'm just all about just the whole, pew, 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 pew of Star Wars. I love that. that's my favorite part of it. So it was very Saturday morning cartoon, Land of the Lost kind of rescue kind of mission, and I'm just here for it. So I loved it.
I mean, I agree. It still does, because it's one thing to see all the Mandalorians on the Clone Wars. That's animation. You can do all of this. But there's something a little bit more special when you see a bunch of them all acting in unison in live action. It's like, whoa, yes, this is so cool.
You know, this rescue, it's funny. I know we're halfway through the season now, but I feel like they're moving things along at a pretty brisk pace. So Mando going to the living waters, we got that in episode 2. I felt like that could have been a season-long thing. Then we get, then we get now, and then I feel like with Bo also going into the water, I knew that she was going to go with Mando back to this covert, especially after her house gets blown up. And now I'm thinking, all right, what's the conflict going to be between Bo and the Armorer? And then you see Paz Vizsla, also has kind of a history with Mando. He challenged Mando for the Darksaber at one point in the Boba Fett season. And it's like, how is this going to play out? Are they going to be antagonists throughout the course of the season? But it's like this episode showed, because Mando was the one who released Paz Vizsla's son from the clutches of this creature, and immediately thanks him and says, "This is the way." And it's like, and the Armorer doesn't seem to have any really ill will towards Bo-Katan, and it's like they seem pretty unified already. So it's like, we went to the living waters. The Pershing thing was knocked out in one episode. Now we have the Armorer, making a new piece of armor for Grogu, and Paz Vizsla is saying this is the way to Mando. And it's like, we're only halfway through the season, and all this stuff seems to be tied up very nice and neat. We still have a whole half of a season to go, and I have no idea what's going to happen. And I it's funny too, because some people are, a big complaint for episode 3 was that it was so boring and it was so slow and this and that. I have the total opposite opinion. I feel like the season is moving very quickly through a lot of the storylines that I thought we were going to have that would play out over the course of the season. And because of that, the fact that we still have a whole half of the season left, I'm super excited about what could go on from here.
I agree with you, John. Well, I like being surprised by this series, and I feel like the one thing that's great about this series, it definitely does surprise me in terms of how quickly you can go through story. It doesn't drag things out more than it needs to be. It surprises you by how quickly it does things. So I'm totally on board for whatever might be in store for the rest of the season. Kimberly, how do you feel?
Yeah, same. I'm really, it's just a big question mark over the last half of this season, but in a good way. I'm glad that they didn't drag out the whole going to Mandalore and going into the waters and all that. I was like, oh, they're doing this now. Oh, okay. I thought this was going to be West for the season, and it was going to take a whole season of him trying to get things to go do that. And so I really like the surprise element. I truly have no idea what the next episode's going to be. I have no idea. And I like that, actually.
Yeah, I mean, especially for all of us that have watched a lot of this type of these types of stories being told throughout our lives, we're kind of used to being ahead of the storytellers. Like, oh, we know how the story's going this season, and you're waiting for them to get there, and you kind of get frustrated when it's like, we know where you're going, just get there already. And it's cool to be on the other side of it, where it's like they're going faster than I was expecting, and I have no idea where we're going next. As a viewer.
Yeah, and even this episode, this was a big curveball, because I knew after episode 3, just from looking online and listening to some other podcasts, that this episode was directed by Carl Weathers, and people just assumed that meant if Carl Weathers is directing this episode, that means we're going to be on Navarro, the pirates are going to attack, and the Mandalorians are going to come in and save them. and we weren't on Navarro for even a single second of this episode. So that is one thing we know is going to come at some point in this season. The pirates are going to attack Navarro, but that's the only thing we know, and that's not going to take 4 episodes. So, like, the fact that we're going to get a showdown with the pirates on Navarro at some point this season, that's exciting, but that might take 1 episode, right? So what else is going to happen in the other 3 episodes? Who knows? And it's probably going to be awesome. That's what I think.
While Carl Weathers was not in front of the camera this episode, he did wear a really elaborate jacket from episode 1 while he directed this episode. So. He did demand that. That was his one request. Like, I have to wear that all the time now.
Yeah.
John, you were mentioning there too, just like the conversation between Bo-Katan and the armor. It's interesting that like what the struggle that Bo-Katan's going through after seeing the mythosaur in the waters of Mandalore, and even like trying to like share that, like no, it's not just a feeling that I had or a vision. I saw a real creature in the water. I shined my light right into its eye. I saw it as clear as day. Because even the armor, it just treats it more as just myth. Like, oh, of course, yes, this is the way. Sure. And just, I feel like Bo-Katan is like just like trying to get people to understand. Like, no, you don't get it. This is real.
I never expected her to even say anything about it at all. That was, for me, this is the I said my whole theme for episodes 3 and 4 was unexpected. In episode 4, this is what was unexpected for me. I didn't expect her to vocalize to anybody that she had seen a mythosaur. And I think it's almost lucky for her that, like, the armor is just being like, well, if you follow the creed, anything is possible. You can see anything. Any vision is possible. It's like, I feel like the armor is almost playing it off as if like, oh yeah, like, yeah, you say you saw this, but that's not possible. But I thought that Bo-Katan would just keep this to herself and then eventually go back to Mandalore and try to tame this thing. Even though I still think my prediction still is that Grogu is going to be the one to tame this beast. Because so far we've seen Grogu tame a Mudhorn, we've seen him tame a Rancor. Each creature is getting bigger and bigger. So, I feel like Grogu is going to be the one. And that's why I said he's going to have that signet on season finale. He's going to be riding this mythosaur, coming out saying, this is the way, his first words. It's going to happen. I'm sorry.
Well, we do see that the armor so happy because she didn't get to just forge 1 item this week. She got to forge 2. After Bo-Katan loses a piece of her armor, saving the family. So she's all about, oh, please, come with me. Let's get you fixed up. And she asks to have, instead of her clan on there, has to have the mythosaur placed on it instead. Kimberly, now that she's rocking her dual signets, what do you think? Where do you think Bo-Katan's going to go this season?
I don't know. I truly have no idea where she's headed. I feel like she felt so betrayed by her people when they said, oh, you don't have the dark saber anymore, we're out of here. And she just was so lost, and now she just keeps getting surprised by the loyalty of the people that follow the creed, that I think she's going to stick around for a little bit. I think she's going to see where it goes.
Yeah.
I'm very surprised that they're not all a bunch of crazy nut jobs, and they're actually really good fighters, and they love being Mandalorian. And she's like, okay, I didn't expect this, but I'm gonna ride this out and see where it goes.
I feel like the big thing is, like, now that both her and Mando have been there, and I can say that the planet is not cursed, what does that mean for just the Mandalorians in general? Do they try to retake their planet? I mean, the fact that somebody sent a bunch of bombers and fighters to blow up Bo-Katan's castle means that clearly there would be somebody out there that would try to stop them if they try to go back to Mandalore and try to rebuild. I think. Do you guys agree?
Yeah, and like I wonder, like, are they this Imperial remnant? Are they keeping an eye on Mandalore, or are they keeping an eye on Bo? Because she made the comment like, "Oh, I've taken out a lot of I've taken out a lot of these Imperial warlords or whatever." It's like, so did they show up because Bo-Katan's been doing that, or did they show up because all of a sudden these two Mandalorians were on Mandalore, and the Empire or the Imperial remnant is keeping an eye on that planet, or is it just because they had this bone to pick with Bo? It's like, but I don't know.
That's very true. Yeah, I guess there's only one way to find out, and that's to watch next week's episode.
Yeah, exactly.
I also loved, by the way, that Paz Vizsla's son is named Ragnar. It's like a random like what is this, a Viking show? It's like, all I thought about was Ragnar Lothbrok.
Yeah.
Folks, I mean, we pretty much talked out episodes 3 and 4. Before we wrap it up, though, Kimberly, any predictions? I mean, this story, as we've said, the story is burning faster than we thought it would. You want to throw out a few predictions of what you think we might see the back half of the season?
I think they're gonna somehow work the story into the beginning of Ahsoka. So it's gonna just be kind of this. The last episode is gonna push us right into the beginning of the Ahsoka series, I think. But I could be completely wrong because I've been wrong about all the episodes moving so quickly already. So yeah, I think that's what they're going to do. I think they're going to tie those two series together.
John, what about you?
I think that Bo-Katan is going to be in every episode the rest of the season. I think she's going to be with Mando the whole time. I think that the Mandalorians at some point, this whole crew, the Children of the Watch, are going to show up on Navarro and help save the day when the pirates show up. And I think that there's no way that the pirates, though, can be the main, big bad of the season. So I think that Gideon is going to show up, and they'll have to fight him off at some point. But we'll find out that Gideon is really underneath Thrawn, who will show up just at the very end, and then we'll tie into what's going to happen with Ahsoka, like Kimberly was saying, because Ahsoka's supposed to come out this summer, so we're not that far away from that, and I feel like we'll get the pirates, and we'll think that they're like the bad guys for the season, but then Gideon's going to show up, and it's going to get even worse. And then at the very last second, once Mando and the Children of the Watch save the day against Gideon, Thrawn's going to come in and be like, all right, I guess I have to do this job by myself. And then it's like, okay, so this is what we're going to get. Mando, Bo-Katan, Grogu meeting up with Ahsoka, who has now reunited with the Rebels crew, and now that they all have to take on Thrawn. And that's what we'll get in Ahsoka in the summertime.
Ooh, that's you, John. Very nice.
Yeah. That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, I mean, one thing is, we still have this whole thing with the Darksaber just kind of just hanging out there. We know Mando's got it, but Bo-Katan would. Who knows? She'll want it, and if she does, I don't think her friendship with Mando, I think, would make it difficult to get it as easily as she would want it. So I'd be curious.
Well, here's another prediction. One more. I'm hoping that Manbo becomes a thing, and Mando has the Darksaber, Bo-Katan gets the Mythosaur, right? And we're gonna get a training montage because Sabine Wren will come out, and we saw in Rebels Sabine getting trained by Kanan Jarrus to use the Darksaber, and now Sabine is going to train Mando to use it in live action. That's what I hope.
That would be so metal. I love that.
Yeah.
I will say, after seeing, how much of Bo-Katan we've gotten this season. I mean, I've enjoyed every appearance we've had of her so far in this series, but having her so involved in the storyline this season, I mean, I'd be down if they want to spin her off into her own series.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah. Give me a Bo-Katan series, especially if you want to delve more. Let her handle more of the Mandalorian stuff of it. If you want to keep Mando just as kind of traveling around the galaxy, getting involved in. I don't know.
I would love to get some flashbacks too with Bo-Katan and Satine. And there's been a lot of speculation out there if they did that in live action, like a flashback of Bo-Katan and Satine together, who could play Satine. I've seen some people saying Kate Blanchett, maybe. I would die. I would die.
Really, what do you think? Honestly, the odds of them pulling Kate Blanchett though for that?
I don't know. A man can dream.
Yeah.
Well, it's like we'll have plenty of time for any of those dreams to possibly happen. I know John Favreau in an interview this week saying that as long as the viewers are loving these stories, he got plenty of them that he could tell. So, I mean, this could go on for more than 4 seasons. Would both of you want to see this story go 5, 6, 7 seasons? Or would you want to see some kind of wrap up? And then if we happen to see Mando pop up in other series over the upcoming years after that, that would be cool.
I don't know. I think it has to make sense with when the sequel trilogy starts. I also listen, Grogu's only 53. This guy can live almost 1,000 years. Like, I can see Grogu being a centerpiece of a new movie or trilogy that takes place after the sequel trilogy that we got. And Mando wouldn't be too old, you know what I mean? Like, if we're talking 25, 30, 40 years from now, like, Mando could still be around, maybe, right?
Yeah, but like then he's what, like 75, 80? Like, I don't know.
How old was Obi-Wan in the in the original trilogy?
Sure.
What, like 19, 20? I just like, given how I have no idea. Like, for this race, what does 80 years old, excuse me, translate to? Can you walk like a regular human or walk like a regular person? Does it take you, 2 hours to walk 100 feet?
As long as it's adorable, I don't care.
But so are you saying when Grogu hits those awkward teen years, you're checking out, Kimberly?
I would check out. Yeah. I don't know.
Oh, he's getting that acne. He's got that attitude. Like, no, forget you, Grogu.
The terrible 200s instead of the terrible 2s.
Exactly.
For that 100 years, you were such a jerk, Grogu. Well, everybody, look at this. We've done it. We've reached the end of the Mandalorian Aftershow. And we brought in this TIE fighter into a smooth landing back in the Death Star. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks for joining us here on JLJ Media for the Mandalorian Aftershow recap. As always, though, follow James Lott Jr. He's the man, the myth, the legend. He makes all this possible. So make sure you're following JLJ Media on all media socials, so you can see what James has got up his sleeves. But Kimberly, if people are interested in following you after the show's over, where can they find you?
You can find me inplainside.style is my website, and that'll take you to TikTok and to Instagram, which is also in plain. Just follow from there.
Nice. John Dunphy, the handsomest man talking Star Wars that I know. Where can people find you? Say if they wanted to talk some strat or they wanted to have a chat.
Well, you can find me personally at jdun89 on Instagram or Twitter. But I also do another podcast about competitive reality TV. So you can find that at Strat Chat Pod, also Twitter and Instagram. And we talk about, Big Brother, all sorts of Big Brothers too. International, we talk about Survivor, we talk about the challenge. Check it out.
To take a strat tangent for a second, I went down the rabbit hole of international competition shows and watched Traders Australia.
Oh my God.
Phenomenal.
So good.
Yes.
Now, have you watched all the versions of the Traders yet?
I'm going to start watching the UK, but I've watched the American and the Australian version. I'm less excited about the UK version only because they're in the same place and it looks like they're doing the same challenges as the US version did.
Yeah, but I got to tell you, here's how I rank the 3 seasons of the Traders that are out there. Australia is number 1. UK is number 2.
Oh,
US is number 3. But it's such a minimal difference. Like I would give Australia a 10. I would give UK a 9.5, and I would give the US a 9. So like it's so close. They're all amazing, but yeah.
interesting. Folks, if you have Peacock, they're all available on Peacock. Kimberly, are you
Traders.
a reality show fan?
I'm sorry, what?
Are you a reality show fan?
Yeah, actually, yeah. I haven't watched a lot of competition shows lately, but we've been binging on Next in Fashion on Netflix. My son and I have been watching that one, and that's competition. So that one's been good, and then Glow Up is really good too, which is makeup artistry, and that one's on Netflix as well. But those, and then the other reality stuff that I watch is usually Discovery Channel. I watch a lot of ghost paranormal hunting shows. I love them so much.
That's cool.
Love it. Yeah,
well, if you decide to dip your toes back into the competitive shows, Traders Australia, go there. You will not be disappointed.
Fantastic.
Oh, holy cow, was it? I could go on, for hours talking about Traders Australia, but that's not what JLJ Media is paying me for. So they're paying me here and all of us to talk Star Wars.
Get off the stage.
Now we
Get off the stage. Where's the hook?
Ladies and gentlemen, thanks for joining us here this week on the Mandalorian After Show. We'll be back next week with our thoughts and opinions on episode 5. Please join us. James Lott Jr. is going to let you see his face and hear his thoughts. So that alone is going to make it a worthwhile visit. But until then, folks, live long and